here, and I'll open the VS Code. Not opening. I'll just do it here. Okay, so we have discussed conditions in the last class, so we are going to continue from there onwards. So what we wanted to do was we wanted to make a mark sheet, basically, which is going to record our grades, and it's going to assign the grades based upon the marks we get. Okay, so I'm gonna take 4 subjects. Okay, so let's say I'm gonna take let, and then let's call it English, and the student secured, let's say, 80 marks in English, and let's say I'm gonna say let maths, and we'll go with 70. I'll let computer, let's say 80 again, and let's say let physics maybe. Okay, you can write whatever you want, the variable names, and yes, in physics they got 70 marks. Okay, so now we have the 70 marks, and then I'm going to take another variable and I'll call it total marks. Okay, so basically this thing you're seeing here, the way I'm writing these variables, it's called camel casing. Okay, so what is camel casing? Basically it's a standard way to write variables. So for example, if I have 2 words, in this case I have 2 words, total and then marks. So basically camel casing says the first letter of the first word is gonna be small in lowercase, and then the first letter of the second word is gonna be capital. Okay, so basically this is called a camel casing, and it's a standard way to write variables. Okay, so from now onwards, if we have a variable that consists of 2 words or 3 words, we are going to use camel casing because this is a standard way. Okay, we have another casings as well. We have snake casing, we have Pascal casing. We are going to discuss it inshallah when we continue with our the next concepts. Okay, I'm going to say let total marks. So what do you think the total marks would be? The total marks, not the obtained marks. So if we have 4 subjects, so each subject has 100 marks in total. So what's gonna be the total marks?
300?
How much?
300?
We have 4 subjects, so each subject has 100
Adding
marks,
up the 4.
so it's gonna be 400. Then I'm
Oh,
gonna take,
400,
yeah,
sorry.
then I'm gonna take another variable and I'll call it OBT marks. Okay, you can name it again whatever you want. So OBT marks, standing for obtained marks. So how much would be the obtained marks? So how much is going to be the obtained marks?
Sir, add them all.
Yes, good. We are going to add each variable that we have taken here. Okay, we are not going to calculate it our own self. JavaScript is going to do it for us. So I'm going to say English, like whatever is stored in English, plus whatever is stored in maths, plus whatever is stored in computer, plus whatever is stored in physics. Now we want to calculate the percentages. So what is the formula for calculating the percentage? What's the formula for calculating the percentage? You guys do know about the formula, and in fact you have written it in your assignments. You have performed these calculations in assignments. So I'm going to say percentage. So the formula is, yes, please. You were saying something. You guys were saying something. We have obtained marks divided by total marks,
The total marks
and yes, and
and
those,
100.
yes, exactly, and that is going to be multiplied with 100%. So I'm going to say OBT marks because our obtained marks are stored in OBT marks. So I'm going to say OBT marks divided by total marks, and then I'm going to multiply it with 100%. Okay, so now we are going to discuss another topic, that is precedence. So basically here 2 things are being performed. We have division as well as multiplication. So what do we want to do first? Do we want to do multiplication first or we want to do division first? Which operation do we want to do first? We first want to divide our marks. So basically we want this to take precedence. So how can we do that? We can enclose this thing in a bracket. Okay, so whenever you enclose something in a bracket, that would take the precedence. And this is the topic we have studied in mathematics in our primary years. It's called board mass rule. I don't know what they call it in US, but it's board mass, and then we have the mass. These two things we had. Okay, so board mass refers to we have to solve the bracket first, and then the division, multiplication, addition, and subtraction, like in this order. Okay, so now we have everything we need. Order of operation, yeah. So basically here we call it the mass rule, DMAS, or board mass rule with brackets. Okay, so now we have everything. Each thing is stored in percentage. So this thing is basically what we have to make our conditions on. So if I were to simply console log the percentage, we can see our percentage. So I'm gonna say console.log, where's that, and percentage. Let me make it go live. Where's the browser? Okay, here it is. I'm gonna open my console, and it's saying 75. So basically this is the percentage we get. So if we were to change the marks, so let's say maybe 30 in English, it's gonna change it accordingly. Okay, so basically now we have something that we can put our conditions on, and that is our percentage. So every condition is gonna be on this percentage. Okay, so now what I want to do is, if a student gets percentage between 90 and 100%, I want to reward that student with an A plus grade. So how do I do that? We need to check whether the student lies in 90 and 100%. How can we do that? Before that we, yeah. So how do how do we check that? Like how? Yeah, good. If, so if it's a function, so now we get our condition inside these parentheses. So now the condition is going to be on this percentage. So I'm going to say if percentage, where's the percentage? If the percent, let me just disable this extension because it's annoying me. So it's, I guess, called cloud code. Okay, so if percentage is greater than or equal to 90%, okay, plus we want to check whether that percentage lies between 90 and 100%. So we want to check the range. So how do we do that?
The double and?
Yeah, the double and. So why and? Why not just or? Why can't we use this?
Because it means it adds it to check if the conditions are true.
The and does it as well.
That's,
So what my question
oh.
is, it's still giving me these. Okay, so I'm going to say console.log a plus. Okay, with a note. Okay, so basically this would mean if either of these condition is true, just do this. Okay, so let me increase the marks so we can check whether the student gets. Okay, for example, what would be the answer now? Do we see an A plus or not? Let me also console log the percentage above the condition. So we are not going to see A plus. Why is that? Why can't we see the A plus thing here? Because we have console logged A plus here, but we can see it in the console. Why is that? Because this condition only runs when the percentage is greater than 90% and less than 100%. So we should see it here. So if the percentage is greater than or equal to 90% and or percentage is less than 100%, well, it's not live. Now it's live. Okay, The percentage is 77%, but it's still saying A plus. Why is that? Where we have said that console log A plus should only be when the percentage is greater than 90%. So why do we see A plus here? Why do we see A plus here? Even though the percentage is 77%, it's not greater than 90%.
So what? So is that considered wrong?
Yeah, it is wrong. So what we have said here is, if the percentage is greater than 90% or less than 100%, like the percentage lies between 90 and 100%, only then there should be an A plus. But the percentage is 77% and it's still giving me A plus. Why is that? Because, in fact, wait, let me make this student fail. Okay, now the student is failed. Okay, but it's still gonna say A plus. The student has a percentage of 2.25, but it's still saying A plus. Why is that? The code is in front of
Um,
you. Why is it saying A plus?
it's missing the if.
No, it does goes with the if. That's why it's saying A plus.
Else.
Because its percentage is less than 100.
Exactly, good. So basically, or says if either of these conditions is true, do this. So okay, the question is the percentage greater than 90% or not? The percentage we get
No,
here, is it greater than 90% or not?
no.
No. But or says that either of these conditions, check either of these conditions. If any of this is true, just do the whatever is written in the if condition. So now tell me this. Is percentage less than 100%?
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically it's going to execute this A plus. It's not gonna look for this condition, okay, because or checks either of these condition. Even if this is false, or says if this is true, just execute this. That's why we are not going to use or operator, we are going to use and operator, because we want both of these conditions to be true. Okay, so save it. Now we are not going to say A plus. Yeah, we're not going to see A plus. Why is that? Because this condition is only going to run if the percentage lies between 90 and 100%. Okay, so it's not going to run because the percentage is, I guess, how much? Yeah, 2.25. But if I were to increase the grades, so now we might see it. We still don't see it. Why is it? Why don't we see an A plus here? Because this condition only executes
It's
when,
it's less than 100.
exactly, it's less than 90%, and this condition only executes if it's greater than 90%. So let me increase the marks here as well. We still don't see it because it's still less than 90%. So let me increase the marks here, and now you would see an A plus. Okay, so this condition is only going to execute if the percentage is between 90 and 100. Now let's move towards the next percentage, that is I want to check if the percentage lies between 80 and 90%. So how can we do that? How can we check for 80 and 90%, the percentage between 80 and 90%? Come on, you
Else.
guys did the all of the assignments. So if I were to just write else, that would mean what? That if the percentage is either 80 or either 0, it's going to do this. But we want to check only for 80 and 90%, like between 80 and 90%. So we are going to write else if, because we want to check for another condition. So we're going to say percentage is greater than or equal to 80%. Okay, so if the percentage is greater than 80 and less than 90, like both of these conditions should be true. So I'm going to write, wait, let me disable all of these as well. Okay, the extensions, I have Gemini. I'm going to disable now. and I shouldn't see go live now. Yes. Okay, let me make it go live again. Okay, so if the percentage is greater than 80% and the percentage is less than 90%, it's still showing me this. Okay, the question I have is, should we write here equals to as well or not? Like the percentage is less than or equal to 90. Should we check write less than or equal to, or just write less than?
Just less than.
Why is that? Although it's correct, but why is that? Because equals, yeah.
Because if you put equal to, it's going to become a plus.
No, because equals to is already being checked in the previous condition. Like we have already checked for equal to 90% in the previous condition. We don't have to do it here, because if we do, they are gonna contradict. Like we have equals to checking here as well and here as well. Okay, so the equals to is already being checked in the previous condition, so we shouldn't write it here. Okay, so we can say console.log and it's gonna have an A grade. Then else if the next condition is gonna be what? If the percentage is between 70 and 80%. So we can say if the percentage is greater than or equal to 70% and percentage is less than 80%, we are not going to put equals to here as well, because equals to is already being checked in the previous condition. We are going to say console.log D. Similarly for the C as well, we can see a percentage, again this as well. If its percentage is greater than 60% and it's less than 70%, console.log C. And then again else if for the D as well, we're going to say percentage is greater than or equal to 50% and here's the and percentage is less than 60%. We again not gonna put equals to here 60, because 60% is already being checked in the previous condition. We're gonna say console.log D. And then if the percentage is between 45 and 50%, so percentage is greater than or equals to 45 and where's the and percentage is less than 50%. Again we're not gonna put equals to, because it's already being checked. E, if none of these conditions are true, like if student percentage is less than 45%, then we're only left with the last condition, and that is the student is failed. So what should we write here? Should we write else or else if? Else, because we don't have any more conditions to check. So what we are going to say is, if none of these conditions are true, just execute this else part. Where is it? Else, simply console.log f, or we can say, let's say fail. So at the moment the percentage is around 90%, so it's going to say A plus. So if you were to decrease the numbers, the percentage is 70% now, so it's going to say D. So if you were to decrease it again, now it says D because it's 50%. But if we were to do this, now it should say fail, and yes, it fails. But we have a problem, and that problem is it's a really long number. Okay, so if you have seen the result cards, the maximum decimal points we have in percentages, how much? How many decimal places do we have in percentages? Maximum. What's the maximum number of decimal places we have in percentages? Like if we have a percentage like this, it should only be written as 28.00. So we want to just bind it to this part. So how can we do that? We have a built-in function that basically reduces the numbers like that. So we want to reduce this percentage, so we can say dot to fixed. So basically this is going to do what? This is going to fix it to a certain number. It's a function, so that's why we are going to put parentheses, and inside these parentheses we can write the number of decimal places we want. So for example, if I were to write 3 here, it's going to bind it to 3 decimal places. If I were to do, let's say, 2, it's going to bind it to 2 decimal places. Okay, so this was the assignments, and you guys did it correctly. Okay, I have marked those assignments. Okay, so now let's move towards the next concept. Okay, so the question is, for example, we are running a school, and we have created this software that basically generates the mark sheet for students. So the question is, for example, if we have, let's say, 500 students in our school, okay, so should we write this piece of code 500 times for each student? Does that make any sense? Right, exactly. It doesn't make any sense writing this piece of code. Maybe let's say it's around 10 lines for every 500 students. That's going to count up to maybe 5,000 lines of code, and it's the same functionality being repeated again and again, and that functionality is it's calculating our percentage. So this thing is not repeated again and again. Now comes the next concept, and that is functions. Okay, so what are functions? Functions are a piece of code that can be reused again and again and again. Like you can use it again and again. So basically, what is a function? It's a piece of code that can be reused. So this functionality, this mark sheet creation functionality, this grade calculation functionality, we want to repeat it again and again. So what should we do? We are going to make this go in a function. Okay, so let me make a function first. Let me comment it out. No, I shouldn't have written it here. Okay, so do you guys get the functions, the like theoretical part of the functions? Functions are what? They are reusable piece of code, like we can use again and again. Okay, so how do we make a function? If you want to make a function, you can say function. Okay, first you have to write this keyword. It's a built-in keyword. Okay, so first you have to write functions, then space, and then you have to write the name of the function, like whatever you want to name it, it doesn't matter. Okay, so let's say I'm gonna say function name to be greetings. Okay, first you have to write the function keyword, and then you have to write the function name. After the function name, you have to put parentheses, and after the parentheses, the curly braces. So now what you see here is the basic syntax of writing a function. Okay, so any questions about writing the function, the syntax of the function? Do you guys have any? Okay, so now you guys are going to tell me how we can write a function. So what are the steps?
Function,
Yeah, the function keyword, and then
greeting.
is it mandatory to write greeting?
No, it could be any function
Exactly,
name.
good.
I'm just writing what you wrote.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. You can write whatever you want. Okay, so let's say we're gonna go with greetings. Yeah, parentheses, and then curly braces. Exactly, the curly braces. Okay, so this function, so whatever you write in these curly braces become the part of this function, this greetings function. Okay, so I'm not gonna do anything complex here. I'll just write console.log hello world. So if I were to save it and go back to my console, what do you think I would see? Should I see hello world? Like, because I have written console.log here, so should I see hello world or not? Like why not? Exactly, very good. Functions are not going to be executed unless you call them. Okay, so basically function is a reusable piece of code that can be used again and again, but you have to call it every time you want to use it. So if I were to go back to my console, you're gonna see nothing. Why is that? Because we have only created the function, we haven't called the function.
What does it mean that we have to call it?
Okay, so what does it mean? So basically it means if you want to get the functionality of this function, you have to call it by its name. Like if you want to call someone, how do we call them? By their name. Is the same concept here. So you have to call the function name and then put parentheses here. So this is what we are doing here, we are calling the function. So when we call the function,
Function name is greeting, so you're writing greetings.
exactly, yes. Okay, so now we are calling the function. Okay, so if I were to save it now, it's gonna give me the functionality of this greetings function. And what is the functionality of the greeting function? What is the functionality of greetings function? No. What is the functionality? Like what did I have written in these curly braces? Exactly. So what's the functionality of this greeting functions? It's gonna say hello world. Okay. And now, if I were to do it 4 times, what do you think would happen?
Say hello world 4 times.
Exactly. It's gonna say hello world 4 times. So we have created the functionality only one time. We have only created it one time, but we can use it again and again by just calling the greetings function. Okay. Does it make any sense? Okay, it doesn't have to make exactly like 100% sense, because we are going to do it again with different parameters and stuff. Okay, so this is the basic concept of functions. Now let's move towards the next concept in this function. Okay, so let's say I'm going to make a function and I'll name it addition. Okay, so I've created this function called addition. Okay, so what this function is going to do for me is, this function, whenever I call this function is going to take from me two numbers. Okay, whatever two numbers you want. So basically this concept we are going to discuss now is parameters. So what are parameters or arguments? So basically we have two names, we have parameters and arguments. So parameters and arguments are inputs for the function. Okay, just like here, where's two fixed here. So this two fixed was a built-in function, and it takes a number from us. Like this function takes a parameter from us, any number. Just like that, this function we have created here is, this function is going to take two numbers from me, and I can denote those two numbers with, let's say, a and b. These can be anything. Okay, it can be anything. So what this function is going to do is going to console.log a plus b. Okay, so whenever we call addition function, we have to give two numbers to this function. Okay, it can be a and then it can be b. And what this function is going to do is going to console.log the product of those two numbers we are going to give. So what do we see in the console at the moment? What should we see in the console?
A plus.
Should we see something or not?
The A plus B.
Have we
For
called
console?
the function anywhere?
No, we didn't.
So we're not going to see anything. Okay, we have only created the function. This function is not going to be executed unless we call it. So how do we call a function?
This one would be addition.
Yeah, exactly, addition and then parentheses
and parentheses
and then this function takes what from me? This function takes something from me. It takes a and b, and these a and b could be anything. So let's say I'm going to say 4 and 7. So what's happening here is, whenever I call addition, it's going to take two things from me, and I have written 4 here. So this 4 basically goes inside this a, and this 7 goes inside this b. So what do you think I would get in return now? What should be the answer now? Like the functionality of this function is, it adds a and b. And what is A and B?
4 plus 7.
Exactly. So what's going to be the answer?
11. Yeah, the
11?
sum will be 11 for
Exactly.
this.
11. So I want to do addition again. So I don't have to write this functionality again. I just have to call the function, okay, and then I can give any numbers here. So let's say I'm going to say 60 and 12 or 21. So now what this is going to do is it's going to add 60 and 21 and it's going to give me the answer. Okay, I haven't written the functionality again for adding the numbers. I have just called the functions and I have just given it the parameters whatever I want it to add. So it's going to give me the addition of these two numbers. I want to do it again for subtraction part as well. So dictate me, what should I do? They're gonna make a function that can do subtraction. So what should I do?
Do you make another function for
Yeah, we make another
subtraction?
function and then
Subtraction.
yeah. So let's say let's make it simple. So maybe sub, okay, and then
The parentheses.
the parentheses, and this subtraction is gonna subtract four numbers. So what should we write here?
So can you put A,
A,
B, C, D?
exactly, A, B, C, and D. Again, they can be anything. Okay. So now, what this function?
Console.
Yeah, console.log.
Logs. Parentheses.
Yeah, A minus B minus C minus D. Okay. So how do we call this function?
Sub.
Sub, and we can give any numbers we want. Okay, so let's say I'm gonna say 4, 1, 2, and 10. So what's gonna be the answer for this one? 4 minus 1 we have 3, 3 minus 2 we have 1, and then 1 minus 10 we have what?
Negative. That's a negative.
Negative
9.
9, exactly. Okay, again we don't have to perform the complex functionality of subtracting. We just have to call this function and then we can give the parameters. Let's say 50, 40, 20 or 10, whatever the numbers you want to subtract. It's going to give you according to the numbers you provided. Okay.
Does it have to have 4? Can it just be only like 2 as well?
Yeah, it can be anything. It can be whatever number you want. It can be 100, it can be a 10, it can be a 1, or it can be nothing. Okay, it's totally
so for that for where we called it like the subtraction on the bottom, we're just gonna write the result, which would be negative 9.
We are not gonna do that. JavaScript is gonna do that for us. We just have to give the numbers we want to subtract. Okay.
Right. Okay.
Okay, so let's make another function, and this function is gonna be called, let's say greet maybe, and this greet is going to take a parameter of, let's say, name. Okay, so this greet is going to take the parameter of name and it's going to say console.log. okay, now what we want to do is we want to say salam and whatever the name is being passed in the function. So how can we concat string and a variable? How can we join them together? How do we add them? Yeah, we can add them, but we have studied something else that joins two things together, and it was a standard way. You had something under the escape key. What was that? Do you guys remember backticks or template strings? Yeah, so this is a really important concept. Okay, you don't have to forget it. Okay, so just write backticks and then we want to say, let's say salam, and whatever the name is. Now the name is a variable, so how do we write variables inside this? Like we want to concat now, so we can say dollar curly braces and whatever the name is. Okay, so now let's call the function. So I'm going to say greet, and this greet takes what from me? It takes a parameter name from me. So I'm gonna write here as, let's say, Sarah. So what would be the answer now? Just Sarah? This, the functionality of this function is what? It's gonna say salam and then whatever the name is. Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's do it again for someone else. First I'm gonna say greet and Ali, and it's gonna do what? It's gonna say salam and whatever the functionality is, salam Ali, whatever the name is. So let's say this function also takes age from me, like it now takes two parameters from me. So I'm gonna say salam, whatever the name is, and it's gonna say you are dollar age, and after it years old. Okay, so now this function takes two things from me, salam, sorry, the name, and whatever the, let's say Sarah is 10 years old, and Ali, comma, and 20. So what would the answer now would be?
Oh,
Say salam,
salam Ali.
Sarah.
Yeah,
Oh,
You are 10 years old. Or
exactly. And what
salam
about
Ali,
this?
you are 20 years old.
Exactly. Now Ali is in 10 years old. He's 20 years old. Okay,
20.
so whatever the name here is. Here you go. Okay, do you guys get the basic concept of parameter and functions?
Yeah.
Okay, now let's make it complex because these are now really silly examples. Let's make it complex. Now what we want to do is we want to make mark sheet for, let's say, thousands of students. Now we don't want to write code again and again and again. So what should we do? What should we do so that we don't have to write code again and again? Like I want to make mark sheet, I want to create mark sheet for, let's say, 500 students. I'm not gonna write code again and again. So what should I do? I'm going to do what? I'm going to create a function. Okay, I'm going to create a function for creating mark sheet. Okay, I forgot one thing. There are two ways to write functions. Okay, the one we have discussed right now, and the other one is the standard way and the latest way, and that is called arrow functions. So how can we make them? I'm going to make the same function again. Okay, I'm going to say const and then the name of the function, and then after it you put equals to, and then you put parentheses, and after it you put equals to again and greater than sign and curly braces. So this is the new way, this is the proper way, and it's called arrow functions. Okay, so we have again two ways. The one was that we have discussed previously with the function keyword, and then the second way is this one, and this is the actual way, the standard way, and this is what we are going to use. Okay, do you guys get this? Let's do it again. So first thing is going to be what? We put const, and then what do we do? Then the name of the function. So let's say the name of the function is salam equals to, and then we do what? Parentheses. After the parentheses you put equals to, greater than sign. It's same as the previous one, but this is the new way and the one the latest developers use. Okay, so this is called arrow function. Okay, so we're going to use arrow functions to create the functions now. Okay, so tell me, now we want to create a mark sheet for hundreds of students, so we are going to create a function for that. So now how do we create a function? Now this time I'm not the previous way, the new way. What's the new way for writing the function? First we write const, and then give me a sensible name for mark sheet function. Let's name it or mark sheet, and then equals to, parentheses, good, and then the arrow. We can call it arrow. Okay, arrow and parentheses. Okay, now this mark sheet function is going to take a lot of things from us. Okay, so let's say first thing is going to take is the English marks. Okay, so I'm going to say ing or English, and then it's going to take the maths marks from us. Then let's say computer, and I think three subjects are good. And then this is going to take name from me, and then it's going to take let's say age, or let's say grade. No, not grade. What do we call? We can't write class. Okay, class is not allowed because class is a reserved keyword. So let's say instead of class we write CLS. Okay, representing class. So this mark sheet function is going to take 5 things from us. It's going to take English marks, mathematics marks, computer marks, and the name and class of the student. Okay, so here I'm going to say let total marks. So we have 3 subjects, so how much marks are going to be for 3 subjects? 300 there, yeah. And what about obtained marks? Let's say I'm going to say let OBT marks. How much? Whatever is being entered in English, maths and computer. Okay, so I'm going to say English plus maths plus computer. Okay, there is no marks at the moment because the marks will be entered only when this mark sheet function is called. Okay, so now let's calculate the percentage. So I'm going to say let percentage is gonna be equals to OBT marks divided by total marks and multiplied by 100%. And now again we have the same thing, the condition. So I'm going to say if percentage is greater than or equal to 90% and percentage is less than or equal to 100%. Do what? Now we want to write all of that paragraph, like this is the name of the student, he or she is in this class, and they have passed with this grade and so on. So what can we do? Console.log. Okay, now I want to concat string and variables. So what should I do? I have did it just recently. We have did it just recently. So what should I do? If I want to join string and variables, the backticks, yeah, good. So let's write this paragraph. So let's say dollar name, like whatever the name is being passed in this function. In this function, whatever the name is, just write the name, and I'm going to say passed with, and let's write the marks here as well. So I'm going to say dollar curly braces OBT marks. Like this is the marks they passed with, slash meaning out of, and then dollar curly braces total marks. Like they have passed with these marks, whatever the obtained marks are, out of the total marks, whatever the total marks are, and it's going to say and grade A plus, and in which class? In class, whatever the class is being passed, so CLS. Okay, so the name, whatever the name is being passed here, passes with whatever the total obtained marks and total marks are, and with grade A plus, and whatever is in whatever they are in class. Okay, so I'm going to copy it down again. So I'm going to say here else if the second one is for 80 and 90%. So I'm going to copy it. I'll write 80 here and 90 here, and I'm going to write the same thing for this one as well, but I'm going to change the grade here. It's going to be A now only. So again, else if, now we have to check for 70 and 80%. So percentage is less than 70 or greater than greater than 70 and less than 80. So it's going to do the same thing again, and then again we're going to say else if, yes, and this is for 60 and 70. Again we're going to say else if, and there is an error. Where is the error? Okay, this is the first if, the second if, the third one, the fourth. Okay, here it is. There is an error. Where is the error? Okay, this is the first one. This is the first, second, third, fourth, fifth. Okay, now it's good. Okay, then again we're gonna say else if percentage, and yes, so it's the same functionality we have did previously, but we are going to see nothing here. Why can't we see anything? We have written this function. Now it's a big function, it has complex functionality, like it assigns a grade based upon
We
the,
didn't
yeah, we didn't,
we didn't fill in the name and stuff yet. Like let the name equal to that.
we haven't called the function. Yes,
Yeah.
so we have to call the function. So we're going to say mark sheet, and then this function takes how many things from me? It's going to take how many things? It takes 1 2 3 4 5 things from me. The first thing is the English marks, so I'm going to say, let's say they secured 70 in English. The second thing it takes is math marks, so I'm going to say 80. The third thing it takes is the computer marks, so I'm going to say 80 again. The third thing it takes is the name of the student, so I'm going to say, let's say Ali. And let's say the fifth thing it takes is the class, so I'm going to say they are in 10th standard. So now what's happening here? When I've written 70 here, this 70 is going to be stored in this English. This 80 is going to be stored in mathematics. This 80 again is going to be stored in computer. This name now is going to be Ali, and this 10 is going to be stored in CLS. So basically all of the functionality is going to be performed on these variables. So it's going to calculate all of this. Again, if I want to calculate for another student, I am not going to write the function again, so functionality again. So what should we do if I want to calculate the same thing for another student? Exactly, good. Just write mark sheet, and then it's going to take how many things from me? 5. The first one is going to be the number for English. Let's say let's fail the student. 10 again and 20 here. She is Sarah. Yeah, and she's in 9th grade. So save it. So Sarah fails with 50 out of whatever the marks, and she's in class 9. So we have compacted this complex functionality in a single line with the help of functions. So that's what functions do. They basically, you have to write functionality once and use it anywhere. Write it once, use it anywhere. So this is the basically the concept behind making the functions. Okay, and functions again are going to be our best friends when it comes to programming, because there would be a lot of complex functionalities and we don't want to repeat those functionalities again and again. Okay, so any questions? So this is going to be your homework. The homework is kind of similar because it's going to be the same thing. You have to create mark sheet, but for 5 students now. Okay, so how are you going to do that? How are you going to create mark sheet for 5 students? Exactly, yes, exactly. You now have to make a function, and inside the function you have to write all of the functionality you have already written, and just call those function 5 times. So that's the homework. Okay, so tomorrow we have a really important concept again, and probably the boring JavaScript is gonna end in our Wednesday class. Okay, but again these concepts are really important. You have to get them really going. Okay, so any questions? Any questions? Okay, then you can leave. Inshallah we'll have a class tomorrow. Allah Hafiz. Allah Hafiz. जी रोहिल साहब, आपका बहुत आवाज़ कम आ रही है, एको भी आ रहा है काफ़ी ज़्यादा। आपका एको आ रहा है आवाज़ में। ठीक है जी बताएं। मैं तो आप जी ज़रूर। असल में मैं तो इसीलिए लेट स्टार्ट कर रहा था क्योंकि आपने बताया था ना वो लेट वापस आते हैं। बेस्ट है। मैं तो कहता हूँ अगर और जल्दी हो जाए तो वो तो ज़्यादा बेस्ट है, लेकिन ठीक है 12 यानी पाकिस्तानी 12 बनेंगे। मतलब कितने बजे कर लें, पाकिस्तानी टाइम बताएं मुझे। ठीक है बेस्ट है, ये बेस्ट हो जाएगा। ठीक है 12 बजे कर लेंगे। ठीक है ओके, अल्लाह हाफिज़।